Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona with the March 27th edition of Horses to Watch. This week we're going to take a look back at three races from the past week that all were races for maidens, one from Gulfstream Park and two from Aqueduct. We'll begin with the Gulfstream Park race. This one took place on the turf, going 7.5 furlongs for fillies and mares, and I want to focus on a three-year-old first-time starter, the number one Passion of the Nile. And you see her break a little slowly from the inside, and this is the race that is going to feature an extremely slow pace. And something you often see in these 7.5 furlong races at Gulfstream Park is they head right into the first turn, the pace slows down immediately, and closers can sometimes be at a disadvantage. And you see as they round the clubhouse turn, there are a number of horses that are running up on heels, just not settling, and that's because the number 5 horse, who will be the eventual winner, just backs down the pace to such an extent. If you look at the time formulas pace figures for this race, all of them are color-coded blue leading up to the final time, which just indicates that this race really favored the frontrunners. And the number one Passion of the Nile, who was making her first start, was just at a disadvantage throughout. And I thought she ran a race that was a little bit better than the final result might suggest, because she seems like a bigger filly, a long-striding horse, a daughter of Pioneer of the Nile. She's got plenty of stamina pedigree. She's actually a half-sister to Mrs. McDougall, who was a multiple graded stakes winner on the turf. And she just seems like a filly that will need this race and do better with more distance in a more favorable pace scenario in the future. You see rounding the far turn here, Jose Ortiz is asking her for run, and she just has to go wide to get into the race. She's moving into the fastest portion of the race. They're really starting to sprint up front, and it's just difficult for a horse like this, especially in her debut, to make up that sort of ground into a very fast closing fractions. All things considered, I thought she did well at the end of this race to nearly get up into second place. She's just going to finish about a head out of third, a neck out of second. She's really running on well at the wire. I think she's going to improve second time out, especially because her trainer, Rodolphe Brisset, is not really known for his work with first-time starters. He typically has horses ready to run their second start, so I think she's going to take a big step forward the next time we see her, hopefully at a longer distance. So she's one to watch in the future. Next, we're going to take a look at a race from Saturday at Aqueduct. It was a maiden claiming race for New York breds. This was a pretty low-level race, just for $30,000 maiden claimers, going 5.5 furlongs on the dirt. It's a very weak race for the level, but I do want to focus on a horse that ran very well within the context of the race. I might be a horse to watch for next time out at this same level against a similarly weak group. That's the number 5, TIZANOXBOW. We can pick it up right from the start, and you'll immediately notice this horse breaks very slowly in those yellow and black silks. He just kind of veers in at the start. A horse comes out in front of him, and he's just going to be off a good 2 to 3 lengths behind the field. Now, what happens from here is, rather than letting him settle towards the back of the pack, his rider, Dalton Brown, really gets after him on the backstretch and rides him up into the race. He's actually never gets a break. He never gets to settle at any point in this race because he's just on go right from the start. He's really being ridden hard to pass these horses around the far turn, and he's just rocketing past horses. You'll notice the fractions go up 23 and 2. A 47 and 2 half is going to flash up. That's actually a little bit fast. If you look at Trackus figures, the half was posted in over 48 seconds. So this was not a fast pace by any means, and it was really dominated by horses towards the front end. The number 7 will be the eventual winner of this race, and it's notable how much ground TIZANOXBOW makes up on the far turn. He went from being good 10 lengths back when they entered the far turn to being right up in contention with the leaders by the time they hit the quarter pole. And it's not like he's going to quit here. He continues coming after the eventual winner, making up ground all the way to the wire. And if you watch through to the gallop out, he actually passes the winner by the time they hit the clubhouse turn. I thought for the level, this was a really exceptional effort by a first-time starter. He was not meant to run well today. This day, he went off at 42 to 1 for very low-profile connections. Trainer Norman Follett is not really known for winning with first-time starters or young horses in general. If this horse gets a rider switch next time to a more experienced rider and finds himself once again in a maiden claiming field that is quite as weak as this one, I think he could definitely win second time out. This is the kind of trip that will catch some people's attention because it was an eye-catching run from off the pace, but these are low-profile connections, and I just don't think he's going to be that short of a price wherever he shows up next time out. Finally, I want to take a look at the 6th race on Sunday at Aqueduct. We're going to stay with the New York breds, but this is a maiden special weight race for horses of a higher class. It's going a mile, and I want to focus on the number 6 horse, Papa Jim. This is a horse that has run deceptively well in some of his prior starts, and he was stretching out to a mile for the first time this race. Breaking from the gate, he's a horse that has sometimes had some trouble getting out of the gate in prior starts. He breaks slowly on a number of occasions. This time he actually broke fine from the outside as the number 6, and he's going to go after the number 1, who is the favorite in this race, Pure 40, on the lead. Now, a number of horses were stretching out in distance in this race, and Pure 40 had never really been a front runner in the past, but he just kind of runs off with his rider, who I guess wanted to secure that inside position with other speed drawn to the outside. And Papa Jim, stretching out for the first time, just becomes way too headstrong on the backstretch. That first quarter in 22 and 4 is extremely fast for Aqueduct. The track is not very fast during the wintertime, and on this day, it was not throwing up fast times throughout the day. So if you look at the time form US pace figures, both of the first two fractions, the quarter and the half, are color-coded red, indicating an extremely fast pace up front. And Papa Jim just never really gets a breather on the lead. His rider, Andre Rory, is trying to slow him down a little bit as he heads into the far turn, but Pure 40 is right on him as he switches to the outside and pressures this horse all the way around the far turn. By the time they get to the top of the stretch, it's going to look like these are both of these horses are going to get swallowed up by the closers. The number 4, Top of the Mint, and the eventual winner, the number 5, BB Banker, are both ranging up on the outside with some momentum. The favorite, Pure 40, who had previously been a pretty reliable horse, especially going this mile distance, he just kind of always shows up with superior speed figures. He's going to call it quits here, but Papa Jim, despite the fact that this is his first race going the distance, he never quits. He follows the eventual winner, BB Banker, all the way down to the wire. He's actually not losing ground to him in the final 8. He switches outside and continues trying to chase this horse home. I thought this was a really game effort for a horse that probably doesn't even want to go this far. Papa Jim's not bred to be a router. He's by Alpha out of the Cuvée dam, so there's really sprint pedigree on the dam side. If this horse gets a turn back in distance to 6 or 7 furlongs next time out, I think he's really moving in the right direction, and he's shown enough ability in prior starts that I think he's overdue to break through at this maiden special weight level. And kind of like with the prior horse we talked about, TIZANOXBOW, these are pretty low-profile connections, a low percentage rider, so he's not going to take that much money in his next start, and I think he's more than capable of breaking through at this level. So hopefully these are all maiden horses that can break through at the level next time out and get their first career wins, because I think all of these horses ran better than it seems. So hopefully we can make a score with one of these horses. Tune in next time. I'll see you next week with 3 more trips.